Hello, Minecraft and YouTube. Welcome back. We are going for round two of this dilapidation thing. So behind me, oh, there's our first one. Behind me here, we have the a red brick build. This would be a contemporary build of today's, like in today's towns, any of your modern day little towns out dotted out throughout the country. You might find one of these houses right here, and very simple, a little bit of decorative corners and stuff. But let's start at the bottom. At the bottom, we have a little bit of landscaping. We have some planters right there in front of the window. Another planter up here on the porch, and then brick walls. Again, the decorative corners. Some pillars right here. We have a quartz. Uh, we have a quartz slab front porch. We have kind of a lean-to off the hip roof here. We do have an open gable here on this end, and then the quartz is there to kind of represent the fascia and that you would see on a contemporary build. And then up here we have the deep slate, the new deep slate tiles acting as the roof tile. And so, very simple build, but it's not. We're not really exploring the build itself. We're trying to also go down and explore this as the dilapidation. And so, but interior wise, we did do a little bit more in this building than we did the other buildings. We have some white concrete walls, a little bit of the exposed brick on the inside of this bedroom, some storage going up and down through here, some more storage up in here, going up to the ceiling. We also have another little bedroom over here, some paintings on the wall, a little kitchen eating area, some barrels and stuff here for storage. We also have a barrel floor. This is actually the bottom side of the barrels that we're using for our floor, and that kind of gives us a lot more storage. You could absolutely use this as a starter base. Now, let's take it on down the line. Let's look at the dilapidation. So we're going from new to this next stage of dilapidation. We're looking at texturized. And so this isn't necessarily dilapidated much at all. We are simply just looking at the different textures that we can add into our build to give it some more character. Look like it's been weathered a little bit. And so we did continue, maybe I mentioned it over there, I did put some carpets over the top of these slabs to keep them spawn proof, because you wouldn't want to walk outside the front of your house and get a creeper dropped on top of your head. Now we'll start at the bottom again. We see our mulch beds begin to break up. We see paths beginning to be worn into our landscaping as we begin to walk around in our world. And so the backyard still fenced off, and the sidewalks begin to get a little bit more worn, and they're not nearly as clearly defined. Move up to the walls. In this particular situation with the red brick, y'all have seen it 100 times. We come in with some granite and replace some of the blocks there with granite. That gives you the effect that the brick texture has been worn away and exposing some of the aggregate within the brick. Up here on the roof, again, we have the cobble deep slate instead of just the tile, kind of giving it a little bit more of a weathered look inside there. Then inside the house, our floor also has some different textures on it. We did have to do away with some of the storage, but we were able to keep some storage as well in the floor, but that's just to add some more texture. On our walls, we used, instead of just the concrete, we used the concrete powder. And then our kitchen is pretty much the same. Windows are pretty much the same. All our storage inside of this room and in this room. Now here on the floor, our carpet, I've been using this as the carpet. The sand is kind of a beige carpet. Our floor, we actually did replace that with some matted down carpet here, which is of course the smooth stone that we put there. Okay, so we did on the outside add a little bit more plants, started to get a little bit more growth around the building. We did put a lot of grass around. We bone milled a lot around the outside. And so we do have a lot more plants and growth, and it's a little less manicured. moving on down to the next stage of dilapidation, we then have weathered. And so in the weathered, we're going to get a little bit more intrusive into our build. We're going to start making it look. Now, the one thing that I wanted to carry down from at each stage of the weathering is we wanted to keep this a secure base, and so we don't want mobs to be able to jump in here and do anything to us. And so we want to keep this secure, keep the baddies away, and that way we can keep this as, say, a starter base. And so outside, let's start at the ground just like we were before. We have our concrete, our sidewalk, again continuing to be dilapidated. It's continuing to take a lot of beating. We have our mulched beds out here on the outside. Of course, they have pretty much been taken over. We have our planter box is also breaking down. Uh, one of our shutters has fallen off and had been replaced by a bush. And so our fence begins to get a little bit worn and weathered, and it's starting to turn dark in color. Our walls, we have a lot more of the granite being installed into the walls. Our fascia has begun to turn brown. It's no longer that pristine white. Uh, now when you start adding, I did want to still try to consider that up underneath this awning, you would still have a lot of this right here is still protected. This area up here is still protected. So your weathering is going to happen more down here at the base and less up here through the top. And so I tried to still keep that right there in mind, that the weathering is going to happen from the bottom up and not from except for up here on the roof. It's going to begin to weather from the top down, where this right here gets exposed to a lot of weather. And of course, where we came in and replaced the quartz with the smooth sandstone slabs, we went back with birch buttons to match the colors a little bit better. We still have the carpet over the top uh, of our quartz to try to keep mobs from spawning above our heads at night. And so the but that pretty much wraps up the outside of the build. We go in and we look on the inside, and the the walls. We see that the walls where I replaced the outside blocks with these right here are just. I didn't hit on this. These are just walls. These are wall blocks that we put inside of the full block, and it gives a little bit of depth as though something has been worn away in that area. And so down here on this spot, same thing, just a couple little blocks. Up here on the roof, you'll notice some stairs and some slabs being added so that we get a little bit more texture, a little bit more broken up. Inside, our build stays a little pretty much the same. I don't know if I mentioned this. Inside, we had the black concrete and the white concrete down for our tiles in our pristine build. We did come in and start adding in. This right here is the polished blackstone, and this right here is the polished diorite, and that comes in and replaces the concrete. And so it gives us a little bit of variation there. The roof, I didn't mention this right here before in our builds. I do love to use the wool blocks as a ceiling in my builds inside of my contemporary builds. It gives a kind of like a textured ceiling. A lot of houses today, it depends on where you live. A lot of houses in the past used to use what we call popcorn ceilings or acoustic ceilings, and today we see a lot more of the knockdown or orange peel type ceilings and stuff like that. And so it gives us a little bit more texture. And so anyhow, moving on to the next stage of dilapidation. This right here is going to be our last fully dilapidated house. We're going to do some variants in that here in the next two. So this right here is fully dilapidated. We have now replaced our our smooth sandstone with some regular sandstone. That's going to give us a lot of texture, a lot of breaking up. Again, when you begin to dilapidate your builds to this level, the build the stuff that's above, it has to have a place to fall. When it falls down, it needs to rest somewhere on the ground. Okay, unless you come through here and clean it all up, it's going to fall straight down. And so a lot of your blocks need to rest there on the ground. We did begin to replace the decorative corners with some other blocks. We did remove a little bit more of the like the shutters, the a lot of the blocks and stuff that have fallen out, the exterior brick, we've left the studs exposed in a couple of different places where the blocks have fallen out. A couple of these different holes and stuff you can see all the way through to the inside, and so our corners are definitely taking a beating. The corners of our gables or our eaves and overhangs, these right here have taken a big beating in any house in America today where the eaves and overhangs, where we use these eaves and overhangs, these are here the first thing that start taking water damage. They start absorbing water, and they begin to rot and fall off. And so here again, we got a little bit more exposure. We did lose our door, but again, we want to keep this build to where mobs and stuff don't get in. Our fence here on the outside, it does have some gaps in it. You may or may not want to leave the gaps. You may want to come in here with some dark oak and fill in the gap there. That way, you still get to keep a fence, and maybe you have some farm animals or something in there, some sheep or some cows. And so our planter box out here, this one right here is being completely consumed, and our bushes here under the porch have begun to grow up. Now, as we go inside, again, this build is completely secure. Bad guys cannot get in here. That's a fence. They're not going to jump up there on that to get into this section, so you don't have to worry about the baby zombies. We do have a fence gate there to replace that door. We did one of our boards down here rotted completely out and is now sprouted some grass growing out of it. All of our concrete has disappeared and we now have the diorite and polished blackstone. Our walls, we've used the new 1.8 or 1.17 calcite block to simulate a little bit more damage in the walls, the drywall. Our flooring in here, we've got a little bit of grass intruding in there. Now your windows, something you could do, and something I've done here is I actually took out one of my window panes as though it got broke and fell out. But the block, the uh, the bush from outside has covered up that block so that from the inside it seems like you're exposed to the outside because you don't have the window no more. And then we also replaced one of the window panes with some brown some brown in there. And then we are missing a few spots in our ceiling where we had some breaks, and I want to take you up there to show you the roof of this build. We do have some major collapsing in the roof, and of course that has to find a place to fall. And so we have our ceiling has turned brown from the amount of rot, and then we have some gray spots that haven't seen as much wetness, but anyhow, it's all there. And our trusses are exposed. You need to think about when you break out a piece like this, what is behind that? What's going to be normally behind that? Well, you're going to have some trusses exposed to the elements now. And also over here, something I wanted to make sure I mention, this tree is this tree, but a little bit more grown up. And this tree has begun to grow through the side of the building and has crumbled this side of the building. And and so that's one thing that I don't believe that is uh, we don't do very well in Minecraft. We don't have intrusive plants. Plants will intrude into buildings and into your build if you give it enough time to dilapidate. And so I wanted to give you this variety. This again is the last of the dilapidation. Now what we're going to see from here, we're actually going to move down. I wanted to cover this right here completely separate so that you get a good idea. This is dilapidated repaired. So if let's say you build a world that's post-apocalyptic where you've moved into the city that has been dilapidated, it's been left in ruin for maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, and now you've come into the city to now start to begin to rebuild and to establish. Well, you're not going to have the tools, you're not going to have the equipment that you normally would have, and so but you do have some material, so you can come up here and start putting boards up over the exposed areas. You can and especially around the corners. Now, one thing I will say about this is that if you get far enough away, those boards will be one of the first things that disappear, just like that. And I believe it's is it 25 blocks or something like that, the render distance to entities. And so anyhow, those boards and stuff, so it does mess around a little bit with your render distance and stuff. So but we did go in and try to do just putting up, and that's really a lot of what it is just putting up some signs. I did leave a couple of spots. I probably put a little bit too many signs up here, just to kind of I wanted to give you a really good view of what it looks like with the signs up as boards nailed to the side of our house. And so nothing else has changed on this build, but I did want to show you what it would look like with the repairs, with the rudimentary repairs that we could do to a build. Up here on the roof, sorry, before we leave, up here on the roof, we did repair the roof. Now I have two different repairs on this roof. The first roof, I came in with some different shingles and tried to shingle up our roof with a different color shingle. I didn't do a really good job. I left some of the decking exposed, and so that's eventually going to rot out again. But again, this is kind of a temporary fix to try to keep the rain and stuff out of our build. Okay, so that's the idea behind how that there looks. Now also over here we come up with a different way to repair this roof. We actually came in here, we replaced the decking and we covered it up with tar. And so this right here would be like tar that we use today. Matter of fact, in a lot of builds today, even today, you'll find tar on top of houses where they've tried to replace to cover up some leaky spots where shingles and stuff are at. Okay, so that is a repaired, dilapidated house. Now we're going to move to the last part of this. Now I did not want to do our other video that we did in dilapidation. We took this castle all the way down to ruins. Okay, I did not want to do that in this particular build style because modern houses or contemporary houses that you might see today, they don't dilapidate the same way a castle does. A castle's made out of stone. This right here is made out of some brick, some mortar, some drywall, and a bunch of wood. And so that wood's going to rot. If you do have a ruined house, you're going to find a slab. That is going to be the extent of the ruins that you'll have left from a house like this. And so, but I did want to give us one more example. This is dilapidated destruction. Now let's say, this right here was this particular house got hit by a tornado. Maybe that's something you might have in your world, that a tornado come through, or hurricane, or maybe even some bombs. There was a war broke out in your area. Some tanks and stuff have been rolling through, and you might want to see a little bit more destruction. And so again, we wanted to keep with the idea that this is a starter house and it's secure. And so this house right here would be completely secure. Even if zombies and creepers and stuff could get up into this build, they can't get through here. And so, and the rest of the build is completely secure as before as well. And so now, and that's about all that we changed on this build. This right here reverts back to dilapidated, and then of course dilapidated destruction. And so that's where we took this last build. So if you like this, I would like to maybe go through and do a few different palettes of and different types of builds, and show you dilapidation through different stages in these builds. And so if you like this video, please consider subscribing. I would like to eventually take you into my original Minecraft world, where I have a lot of these dilapidated buildings and stuff. I have set up that world as a post-apocalyptic world, and so it's pretty neat. But again, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and if I don't see you again, I hope to see you in heaven.